Hello.
Hello.
Hi, welcome back.
Welcome back.
Um, Today we're going to talk about cross training and how it relates, how we personally related to dance with it. That was not English, but that's okay. As well as like injuries and injury prevention. Again, kind of more from our experience. Neither of us have degrees in injury prevention yet.
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 I will be a
Yay.
dance movement therapist in a couple years, give or take.
Give or take.
Yes.
Depending on how the whole,
Depending on company auditions, but
and pandemic situations and
yes.
all the things. Also, my lips are like blue because I just had a smoothie bowl and it had blueberries in it. So I'm sorry that you have to witness that for however long it's about to happen. All right. So let's get into it.
Okie doke. Should we start with cross training and our
Yes.
experiences with that?
Sure.
Okay.
I also want to start by saying that I did not believe in cross training for a really long time. um, like growing up, all I did was dance, and I didn't like. I mean, I had PE classes, but that was it, and I wasn't thinking, oh, this is gonna help me with dance. I was just like, oh, this is another like credit I have to fill, and I frequently used dance as my PE credit. So
I did the same. In high school, I had the option to opt out of PE because if you had something you were doing activity wise that was like comparable or better, you could like basically get excused for PE. So I had to show them my dance schedule, which was, like almost 7 days a week. It was even more than PE because I just didn't think it was necessary to have PE when I was already so active to begin with. So I did get out of PE in high school.
actually, part of one of my PE classes, we did a yoga unit. So
Ooh.
that's actually where I was introduced to yoga. I think I was 15, 14 or 15. And um my PE teacher was a mountain biker, and he had these like 20-minute, 30 and 45-minute like yoga for bikers videos. So that was really interesting and it was really good, and because I was a dancer, I was the most like flexible person in the class, so I felt confident knowing that I could do that. I have since done more yoga and have learned that flexibility is not everything. But yeah, like that I think was where I was like, oh, this is like physical and it's feels good and it's not dance. I think that was also like the first time when I realized that dance wasn't the only physical activity I could do that felt good. That's
Yeah.
the point.
I feel like, I mean, especially growing up, since we were so heavily involved in dance training, that's pretty much all we knew. So other forms of activity just felt like they weren't necessarily kind of like coinciding with dance, like they were just always separate activities. Um, but I think now, well, obviously having way more knowledge and being older, it makes more
Mhm.
sense to have cross training because it does actually benefit more of your dancing capabilities to have these other forms of like strengthening and cardio and stretching and all these other benefits that you don't necessarily just get from dance. So I think it is important to have like other workout regimes involved with dance. So cross training, like, definitely I think is important now as a dancer. And even any kind of athlete who takes it, pretty seriously does more than just their main course of exercise.
Yeah, totally. I think I like started getting more into it after before my senior year. Like right the summer before my senior year, I had Pilates at my summer intensive, and that was like very like I remember after a couple weeks of doing that, my core felt so strong in ballet, and I was like amazed. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I can like balance and turn like That was super exciting. And then my senior year, we had floor bar and we had like abs. We had like an ab workout for like half an hour, once a week or 45 minutes. It was like a pretty intense ab workout. It was like Pilates based. Um, but yeah, and then the floor bar, man, I miss floor bar because while it's like very ballet centric, it's so good for you.
I know. I do. I love floor bar. I haven't had floor bar since like, oh, my first semester of college with, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was either my first or second semester of my first year.
I think
And
it
then
was your first semester
I
because I
think it was,
remember
yeah.
I had gyro my first semester, and then my second semester I had floor bar with two different people, and we
Hmm.
alternated days.
I mean, okay, so like summer intensives, they always introduce some form of like Pilates, stretch and strength training class,
Yeah,
yoga. I
conditioning.
definitely did have that, and I went to a summer program pretty much every summer. Like the first summer, I did not, I believe, do anything when I was 16 because I wanted to get my license and like do other things this one summer. So, but apart from that, I basically always went to a summer intensive, and I always did have those forms of exercises. But even then, it's like I never really thought of like blending them together somehow. I don't know if it was just like a naive thing of being young that I just didn't understand that like there was actually a purpose to like having these classes before, after, and then you go into
Right.
like ballet, partnering, and variations, and all these other things. And
Um, I think like when people are younger and they learn how to like warm up for like say a ballet class, like you have I actually have a TheraBand right here. Like you have the like this that you put around your legs and then you do like the clamshells and variations of clamshells. Um, or even without the TheraBand, it still works. You do that, you do like you put
like
your foot in it and you do like toe flexion stuff, like ankle work.
mm-hmm.
Um and like that, I mean, I don't consider that like cross training, but it is like a different form of movement that isn't like dance, and that like can go into like cross training workouts, like resistance style workouts potentially. I mean, the foot ones are like super particular, but like the clamshells and the like leg extensions and the like bendy flexy, like warming up the joints, you know. Um yeah. And Pilates, I mean, Pilates has a lot of those like turn in, turn out. Like they have like développés in their like the side body sequences and um else.
Yeah, I definitely did way more like Pilates work at summer intensives, like versus yoga, because I didn't actually take
Mm-hmm.
really my first yoga class per se until after high school. Honestly, I got really into it when I broke my ankle because I couldn't go back to dance right away. So I had to figure out what else I could do. And I had a friend at the time who had just completed her teacher training and she needed just like bodies to come into the
Mm-hmm.
studio to practice on. So I
Yeah.
was like, this is perfect. It was like perfect timing because I was basically just cleared after like recovering as much as I could to kind of like get back into some form of exercise. So I started doing yoga, and I wow, like ever since then, I was in my 20s, earlier 20s. Yes, 19 maybe. No, no, I don't know. I can't do math.
Been
So
a while.
let's just say that. Um, yeah, and then after that, I've like had a yoga membership ever since. Because then I was like, oh my god. Then because I also once I did start finally going back to ballet, I still kept going to yoga to help with just strengthening, um and because it just felt good to
It
like
feels so
sweat
good.
and to be in the room that was heated, and I just was like, oh my god, why didn't I like know about this so much long like beforehand. And I then decided I was going to keep both because they really complemented each other. I felt like I couldn't really at that point do one without the other anymore. Like I had to make sure that I had both because it just was providing me with other things that dance wasn't, and vice versa. So
You
I've
mean
like,
like yoga and ballet?
mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like, well, I mean, I like personally take pretty intense yoga. Like, I don't really do the meditative yoga. I do yoga to like work out and to
Yeah.
like get stronger. But it's also, I mean, there are still like mental benefits to it because I do feel very like relaxed after, despite getting up like my cardio and whatnot. Like it's still very therapeutic for me. I think that's just how I'm used to working, like with dance, where you like go, 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 go all the time. That I feel like that's just kind of my ritual of working out in
Mm-hmm.
general, more
Yeah.
fast paced. So like I do weights and squats and cardio and push-ups. I mean, all of that is in like this 1 hour, this like sculpt yoga class. And so that's probably, it is definitely my favorite class. I used to take more of like the flow classes to start, but then I kind of reverted to only wanting to do sculpt. So I only really do sculpt now, but it's good because like when do we really lift weights in ballet? Like you don't.
You don't. No.
Don't have any of that. So that's why I have that as well on the side because I'm not getting that kind of workout otherwise,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
feel more upper body strength and whatnot, and just to feel like I'm getting like a well-rounded workout, like because I'll sweat and I'll work really hard and dance, but it's not the same. Like you need a little bit more like push and effort, some like resistance type training because
Yeah.
that's I think the most beneficial for your body is like a whole unit
Hmm.
to work out
Well,
like every form of it somehow.
yeah. I mean, like I feel like in ballet, you're it's like a hit workout. Like bar, like you sweat. You sweat. Like it's hard. But you're doing like a minute, 2 minute depending exercises, and then you're waiting, and then they're giving you the next combination. I had one teacher in high school that didn't do that. He just like kept the class going, and he like taught it as it. He's the best. But also I did have in high school, we had some of the men would hold like 1 pound weights out with their arm in second and would do like all the positions with a 1 pound weight. I would die. I
Yeah, I
like
actually just saw that recently, like in a video on Instagram where somebody was wearing like weights on their arms. And I was like, I kind of like, it caught me off guard for a second. I was like, oh my God, that's really like, that's so interesting, but I get it because you just
yeah.
need a little more, you
Mhm.
know?
I mean like sometimes like this is great, but like yeah, I mean it like gives you a little bit more like a little bit more strength, you know?
Mhm.
And then it makes no weight feel easy. Or um which is always a plus. Um and it was interesting like you talking about your sculpt yoga class cuz definitely like many people go to yoga for a workout cuz it is a workout. Like no matter how you do it, cuz it's hard. Like I'm like dripping sweat almost every single time I go. Um even if it's not a heated room, like I'm like dripping. And it also depends on how many people are in the class, but I do
Oh,
more of the like yoga for like mind body connection, mind body soul connection. And it's a lot slower and it's not all Ashtanga, which is like I don't want to get it wrong, so I'm just not going to say anything about that.
yeah.
But like I've done like yoga where it's like 5 breaths per pose, and you move through it at 1 breath per pose, and then like there's more repetition, and that makes it's more of like a muscle memory thing, kind of like with dance. Like your body will just do it automatically, and then you can think about your breath and you can think about other things, and your body's still going. Um, like it develops like a very very deep type of strength um that nothing else has given me in the past, cuz like like I do like resistance training and weightlifting. I'm not weightlifting right now because, I'm in my home, but I do resistance training, and while it does give you strength, like it does give you like physical strength, like yoga gives you like a deeper, more like internal strength. And I think part of that has to do with the mental aspect of it, because the mental calms you and it makes you stronger. So I think that that is part of why yoga makes me feel stronger when I'm physically doing the action, is because the emotional, like, or sorry, because the physical is like matched by the mental
Mm-hmm.
focus.
Yeah,
Um
I definitely think it's way more like mindful. And also, I've come to realize too that it really matters like who the instructor is, because I've definitely had the same class with like many different instructors, and I can very clearly tell you which ones I was like, yes, I got the most out of
yeah.
this class, and then other ones I'm like, I can't tell you a single, like, I definitely had my favorites and my
Yeah.
least favorites. So I really think it depends on the quality of the teacher as well, like how they're speaking, like the tone of their voice,
Mhm.
how like engaged they are with you and in the class. And like, really, I mean, it's hard even being the teacher, and I still want to do my teacher training, but it, and eventually I will do it. But it's like, I think about it sometimes, like how hard it is for them just to even keep a class going with like all these people, to keep them like motivated, their energy up, like they're breathing. And you have to be so aware, because you're cueing the whole time, and you have to be on certain
Mhm.
musical cues and counts, and the whole class is driven on that, basically, that if you fumble on any part, the whole thing falls apart pretty much. So
Yeah.
you're like so self-aware of kind of like the whole flow of the class. And I've definitely had teachers where they're not like so good on that, in some ways, that it's kind of hard. Like you have to be in like sort of a pretty flowing pace. But yeah, some I think are just kind of more gifted than others. I mean, but
I
that's,
mean,
that's
I've taken from like new teachers, and it's like they messed up like their words a couple of times, and like I didn't realize how much that would take me out of the experience.
hmm yeah, it's like distracting somehow, and I totally get it. I mean, I feel like I would probably do the same thing, and
Oh
I
yeah,
do that even teaching
100%.
ballet sometimes, and this is something like I've trained in my entire life, and I'll still
Yeah.
fumble on like teaching, or because it's like you're shifting from like a student perspective to then being like in charge. And
Yeah.
I don't know, it's kind of intimidating sometimes. And
I mean, I haven't gone to yoga in too long, and I feel it. My flexibility feels it. My brain feels it. I miss my teacher so much, and yeah, it's weird. It's really hard. Um, it's kind of like, I mean, it's like ballet. It's like anything that you do every day or do and you have a passion for it. Like you miss it and you can tell when you don't have it because your brain is doing different things. And it's just not the greatest experience. So I need to get back into that. I was gonna do it this morning, but the time difference, it was 6:30 in the morning and I set my alarm for 6 and then I was like, uh-uh. I mean, and actually when I was in Portland too, I was how far? Oh, I had like been recovering from an injury. So I got injured in April of 2016 and then I went to Portland in September of that year. And during my summer intensive that year, I like re-injured it a little bit. So I sprained my MCL um doing a cartwheel actually. That's embarrassing. Um I was actually in a dance studio when it happened. We weren't holding class, but I had gone to meet with my teacher and a couple of us were like messing around and I like did a cartwheel and I overextended, arched my back and like just landed on my leg and like my knee sprained. Anyways, it was painful. So then I had this like full leg cast that I was in for a month And I went to class every day, took notes every day, cried half the time, but I got an A in the class.
Well,
And it is because of that A that I am able to graduate this year. So,
oh, yeah. Well, speaking of injuries, um, going into any sort of like sport or dance, especially, you kind of take the risk of having injuries because it's just part of the role. Really athletic things come with. So I've definitely had my fair share of minor to major
all the
injuries.
spectrum.
Um, my first like, well, my first like memorable injury that I would say was when I was 14. I went to Boston for Boston Ballet summer program. That was probably my favorite intensive. One of my best friends and I went to, well, we got like early acceptance to Boston Ballet's summer program, which was like amazing. So then we were like, oh my God, we're going to go, we're going to go, we're going to be like roommates and whatever. So we did. And we flew out there together and everything. And it was just so much fun. And that was like my first like time that I remember being in Boston, because they also took us around to like Newbury Street and all that stuff. So like it was so cool like coming back here for college. I was like, oh my God, I've actually
That's
like
so
been
cool.
here before, and but I didn't like appreciate it as much as I did then than I did going back the second time. So, but yeah, that
Wait,
in
how old were you?
14,
Okay.
14 when I went to that summer intensive. And there were 8 levels at the time. I know it's probably drastically changed since, because stuff is always evolving and changing. But at the time, there were 8 levels. And level 8 was basically for like 20, 21-year-old dancers. And I like that you had to obviously place in a level when you first
Mhm.
got there. So like our first day was just placement. And I placed in level 8 as a 14-year-old, which was like insane. And I just remember some of the girls in that class were very like, why is this girl in this class? Like, that's so insulting. And my friend, who was like 15, basically, we were like the same age. We both placed in level 8. We were the 2 youngest people in this class. After that, I had like severe shin splints. I remember, because the last day I was like, oh my God, I could barely jump. But I didn't know what they even were at the time. I just remembered my shins were like killing me, and it felt like the bone was like shifting off of like the muscle, because the muscle just felt like it was like moving around. And I had never had an injury like that. So I just was like, oh my God, I don't even know what this is. So I ended up telling my teacher at the end and describing to her my pain. And she was like, oh, I guarantee it's shin splints. Like, this just happens from like overwork and overuse. And, which was probably made sense, because we were jumping constantly and I mean,
Yeah.
we were doing a lot. And I was a little 14-year-old as well, very fragile and like frail, super tiny. Um, so that was my first injury that I really remember having. Wasn't super severe. I was fine after that program, because I had some time off, went back to ballet like come the fall, and I was like
Hmm.
back to normal. I've had minor shin splints since, but nothing like that. That was definitely the worst that I had ever had them. Um, and then what else? I broke my ankle. That was definitely the most major and traumatizing experience that I had had. This was when I was training at Los Angeles. This happened in like 2013, so it's been a little while now. But we were getting ready for the summer show, and all of these injuries are always like when there's a show or like when you're about to perform. Like, there's always some awful timing with these injuries.
Always. Always.
Always, because that happens like a week before we were supposed to perform. LAB has like terrible floor. Like, I'm sure they haven't fixed it since. But there was like this X on this one part of the floor, which was like, okay, caution, but also when you're dancing, are you going to be like looking at the floor looking for this X? Not really. I'm like doing a pirouette. Like, we had pirouettes from fifth and this one point in the dance, and I just slipped. Like, it just was like on the bad spot, slipped, fell like my body weight right on my ankle, and like everybody heard the like And I just was like, oh my God. But I also had so much adrenaline and I was like in shock that I didn't even like think it was broken. I was like, like I don't know how to react to this right now. But I just remember it was like swelling up like a bowling ball, and one of the girls like ran over and like untied my point shoe and got my shoe off really fast because my ankle was swelling up so fast. And I like sat there for like an hour just sobbing and sobbing and sobbing and waiting for the like or no. So one of the girls, it was so funny. I remember this so clearly. She like took my car. I just gave her permission to drive me to the nearest like emergency room. And I let her do it because she had the same car as me. Like we both were driving our dad's like old like 98 4Runners. So I remember her like driving me there and she's like, are you okay? And I'm in the back like with my leg up and I'm like hysterical and I'm just like, oh my God, it's broken. Just like, what am I gonna do? My career is over. How am I gonna come back like emotionally and physically from this injury? Like I've never had this bad of an injury before until that moment. And, obviously, sure enough, you get to the ER, my parents come and they're doing x-rays and it was broken, but it was also like severely sprained. So it wasn't the best news, obviously, but my first like reaction was not even that I couldn't dance for probably like lengths of months at a time, but the fact that I couldn't even walk like hit me the most. I was like, oh my God, like not only can I dance, like, okay, yeah, I already knew that, but like I'm not even gonna be able to walk for like 2 months. Like it just was awful when you're used to being so active and then you were like so limited to anything at that time that I was off for about 4 months, which was actually pretty remarkable because I had surgery. I had to have surgery a week later because I ended up getting referred to a surgeon who now practices in like Los Angeles, but he's from New York originally. He used to be the surgeon for New York City Ballet and American Ballet Theater, so like we knew he was top notch.
Mm-hmm.
He like I had to have surgery because my fibula broke like on an angle, like on a diagonal, but it also like shifted my foot out of alignment. So we had to have I had to have an open reduction surgery with like pins, a plate to put it back together. So it's kind of gnarly.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in a cast for like a week. Then he just put me in a boot for 2 weeks, but I couldn't weight bear on the boot. But he put me in the boot just so I was more comfortable, like showering, going to sleep, because I honestly like the cast was horrible. Like I'm already a little claustrophobic. I felt so trapped. Like I just like cried every night with that cast on. I just couldn't do it anymore. So I was in a boot for a while, and then I did everything I should have. Like I did the rice method like to a T. Like I was like, I want to be back walking. I want to go back to dance. I really need to like get back to like normalcy here. So I was back in the studio by month 4, which was like outrageous almost because he was like, realistically, you shouldn't be back until like month 8 or something. I can't even believe you've like recovered this quickly, but I did. And I was back on point by the 5th month, but I was also doing PT like 3 times a week and doing like basic, classes. And so I bounced back pretty quickly, all things considered. Like PT was so hard. That kicked my butt. Oh my God. PT is like, it was like Pilates on like crack or something.
Wait, what'd you do?
I had a lot of reformer work. So I did a lot
Okay.
of work reformer where you're like pushing off from like the end of like the bed type thing, and you have different like weighted weights for that. But we kind of went up as I went, but and then I had to do the thing on like that half ball. What do you call those things?
The Pilates ones?
Yes, where it's like only half a ball and you stand on it for
Oh,
like
the
balance.
Bosu ball.
Yes. So I had to get on there, like I had to do both sides, like do like legs front side. I had to do like tendu dégagé, sort of like développé type things. I did on that. I had to do a lot of cycling. I did a ton of cycling, like biking. There was like a little stair machine that I used to get on, a lot of stretching, a ton of ultrasound, like massage, because it was swollen. Like if anything, it was just so swollen for a while. Even when I did go back to dance, I would do like a bar and my foot would be like the size of a baseball. So I mean, the swelling definitely lasted a pretty long like period of time. It was hard to do point at first because of that.
Mm-hmm.
But eventually I was okay. But it was a pretty grueling, like, I'd say few months back to dance because I had to strengthen. I mean, it was like learning how to walk again for the most part, because coming out of the doctors like without any boot, cast, whatever contraption, like I could barely walk.
Yeah.
Like inching across the hall, like it was so awful, but I could not, like, it's like my ankle lost all mobility and function to like function as a normal human being, like walking down the sidewalk or something. Like I physically could not do it. So that took time just to even get that strength back and to like retrain those muscles and ligaments to work properly.
Yeah.
um so that, yeah, that was, whew, that was a lot. Yeah, I hope I never have to go through anything like that again. That was by far
Yeah, it's a
like
lot.
the longest recovery and extensive, like, and then I had surgery like 2 months or 2 years later because I removed the hardware because it started hurting me at yoga and just doing like basic activities that I just felt like the metal was really hitting on my bone and stuff, and I was just like, oh, I need.
I mean, I honestly, I think that dance was, I'm sure that was like a big reason why you got back as quick as you did. Like because you had that goal and because obviously you were super healthy physically because you were doing that. So like you were healthy to begin with, so your body would want to like recover more quickly.
Mhm.
It's more able to recover more quickly.
Yeah, I think athletes in general recover quicker than like your average person because you're already used to being so active and your body is just kind of like running on that kind of cycle, that I think that's why I also recovered, as you said, a lot quicker than like normal because I was just ready and like the muscle memory stuff started coming back.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it still took time. It was still kind of like agonizing, and I had so much free time, and I wasn't in school at that time, so I wasn't like, I didn't have anything else on the side to do but wait to like recover and to heal. So, but I think I had a like my willpower at the time was extremely high. Like I did not give up at all. Like I feel like it might be a little different now, like being a bit older, like how I would probably respond to that. But at the time, I was like, for sure, like I'm not letting this like stop my career. Like I'm
Yeah,
gonna
absolutely.
keep dancing.
I mean, I think you see that in a lot of ballet dancers. I
Resilient.
person Yeah. I mean, like I personally do not have the strongest willpower. I will gladly admit that. Um if it's something like an injury though, I mean, like everybody has their days where they're like hopeless and like I cannot do this anymore. But I mean, I shouldn't say everybody. I certainly did not have that every day. I was like not having the greatest day every day. But I mean, I knew it was only a month. And for me, like that was like forever. But like all things considered, like I mean, our Christmas breaks are like 5 weeks. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, it's not ideal, but I made it work, you know. And that's when I got into Pilates actually. I got my mom bought me off Amazon just like a Pilates DVD, and I did Pilates every single day. I didn't do like leg stuff very much because like I couldn't like torque my knee at all, but I like wore the brace and did like core stuff. I did so much. My core like has never, well, at this point I think it has been stronger, but like at the time it had never been stronger. Um my lower core too was very strong. Um and again, I think that's what helps you get back quicker is because you're cross training and you're building that definition or that like muscle strength in different parts of your body that you wouldn't necessarily do it if you were just dancing. And I think that that's another reason why. And like that's a lot of like a lot of ballet dancers that don't cross train like have overdeveloped turnout muscles and underdeveloped turn in muscles. Like that's why a lot of dancers walk turned out. Um is because their like rotators are so strong. No,
True.
it's true. Like I mean, when I was doing a lot of ballet, I was walking more turned out because my like turnout muscles were so strong. And I mean, there is a stigma against like cross training, like weightlifting, resistance training in ballet because no one wants to like get bulky. Um, which I mean, I know that the stigma is getting like coming down because I know more people are realizing that that's not the case. But it is hard, and it's really hard for people, especially younger dancers in training who are self-conscious of their bodies and of they're wanting to be perfect. They're wanting to be the best, and they don't want anything to hinder them. And being in an environment where all you're doing is ballet, you don't understand like your brain can't wrap around the fact that like not just ballet, like ballet is not the only thing that's good for you. Um and I mean like myself included, like I was absolutely terrified of doing like too many parallel squats. Like I'll be honest, like I didn't realize contemporary dance made your legs more muscular. Because I've always had like more muscular legs because I started in like jazz and like lyrical and like that type of thing. Like I did not start in ballet. So my muscles develop differently and I've been like they naturally build in a different way, I think. But like all things considered, like doing ballet, um it does work your muscles, but it does work them in a natural way. And my personal opinion is you need to be able to work them in a natural way as well so you can support the other type of work.
Mhm.
And I've been doing like resistance training with like therabands, and I mean that's really flexible as far as like how much weight you're lifting or like pulling. um but it's been really nice because like you do squats but you like put a band on so you can like have a little bit of extra resistance, and like you like step on the band and then you do like bicep curls and that like gives you a little extra resistance, and like it just makes you like lengthen more, I feel like, because there's a function to it rather than I'm just lifting these weights, like you're like trying to like straighten your arms or you're trying to get the band to a certain tautness.
Mhm.
um
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, like body weight exercises, like even like planks or lunges or push-ups. I want to be good at push-ups. I'm not. I really want to be good at push-ups. It's such like a small thing and it's so like eh, but oh, and like walking. Walking is like a good form of like practicing the parallel,
Mhm.
because you are working your parallel muscles when you're walking. I mean, you're supposed to. Um
Trying.
I mean, I'm very much built like a soccer player, so I am very parallel, but I can't say that for everybody. I mean, I it engages all of your muscles. It's good cardio. It's like all around good. And like, I mean, we keep talking about how much we walk at school and we like don't realize it until we come home and we're not doing that. And I wasn't even like pushing that hard, like I'm just walking to Commonwealth. Like I'm not trying to run a marathon. Um but it does make a difference and you don't really realize it until you like go back to it and then you're like, "Oh, yes." But yeah.
Yeah. No, it's so true. Stamina plays a big part in all of it too. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I mean it like depends on the day, but I can go out for walks and stuff. Um, which my little venture to the store
Yeah.
will make my walk, but
Yeah, that'll be nice. And also, like, I notice when I do these workouts, I mean, especially when I was at school and I was dancing more consistently and like doing ballet every day and modern every day, like when I would have the days at the gym, I felt so much better, like dancing. Like I felt stronger. And when I go to yoga and like because of all the upper body strength that builds, I when I would improv, I would do more stuff on my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I would do more like one-handed things and like push-uppy things and like lunges, like deep fourths. Like I would just like explore more and I feel more comfortable to explore because I knew that I had muscle to protect me and to keep me up instead of like sinking into my joints. I will say also on the like topic of like cross training, um, it's been an amazing energy release for me and an amazing like coping mechanism for me. Um, and like both of us, I know both of us work out a lot when we're home and not dancing. Like I mean like in this time. Like I mean I work out I usually like in the morning I usually like fumble around and do a couple of like things. It's not like a workout, it's just like I just want to like engage my muscles a little bit. Um and then I do a workout later and then I stretch. Maybe I'll take a dance class. But I'm trying to move a lot because like if I'm sitting at my desk all day, like I'm so unmotivated to do anything. And I don't want to become unmotivated. I don't want to become unmotivated to move, but I also don't want to become unmotivated to like get my stuff done.
Yeah, I know.
So
Still kind of struggling with that a little. Do we have any final thoughts, comments to wrap up our podcast for the day?
I I just think that like knowing about different types of workouts are incredible like it's incredibly important and I think that because of the physical demands that ballet is presenting nowadays, it's becoming more and more important and it's becoming more and more noticeable. Like it's becoming more noticeable when somebody has cross trained versus not in a dance setting, especially like stamina wise. Um, I think cross training has like a lot of it does have to do with stamina. Like it doesn't have to be like in ballet, you're not going to be like bodybuilding. Like you're not going to be like lifting heavy weights, you know, but you will be building muscle and that will help your endurance and that will help your stamina. So, yeah, I mean, having that having the availability and openness to try something like that and like noticing like how that helps you and noticing what works for you and what doesn't I think it's really important and I just think that it should be talked about more and encouraged more.
The emotion, like the trauma, like I've already experienced that whether it was like a lesser or bigger injury, all the emotional was still the same. Like
Yeah.
all of that was still there. Like it just came flooding back and I was like like I let it all in, but then I was like, okay, how can I remember how to like manage this stress and to like remember that it's not my fault and these things happen. And yeah, it's always horrible timing. Like every time I've gotten severely injured, it's always been like the worst possible timing ever. But kind of like also making it known that it's okay to feel those feelings, but then how can you come out of it stronger and to pick yourself back up and to get back on your 2 feet and to know that you're not going to let this injury stop you unless there is literally like no way you can continue, which
Yeah.
I don't think happens too often. Most people, especially in dance, do recover from injuries. I mean, it has to be so severe to like completely put you out. But I think in most cases, you're able to get back out there and it just takes time and like the willingness to take that time and to be patient. I think for
Yeah.
me, all about patience. Like I had to be so patient with myself because I'm not the most patient individual. Like I like things like at a fast pace. I'm
Yeah.
busy, always doing something. Like sometimes it's hard for me to do nothing.
Mhm.
But even in this time, I'm kind of being okay with doing nothing. Like I've had days where I'll do minimal work and I'm okay with that.
Yep. I've
Like
like tried to
not be 100% every day. It's just not physically possible.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I've this quarantine has taught me that and I don't think I'm taking advantage of it right now. Like yes, there have been a few days in a row that I've been like but I've still done some things. Like I've still worked out and I've still like moved my body. I just like realized that I can't make myself do all the things every day. That's just not reasonable, realistic, or healthy. So, yeah, I think that's all I got.
Yeah, me too.
Amazing. So,
Yay!
thank you for listening if you've made it this far.
I
And um, talk to you
engaging.
soon.
Yeah.
Bye.